This video is brought to you by these YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Hello everyone and welcome to the top 10 Kenpachis on Bleach Brave Souls. Now look, I know it's been a while, I'm sorry, it's been busy, we're moving, but hopefully I can start doing these a lot more frequently now. These and the other series as well. Now with the announcements of Spirits Are Forever With You, and the fact that we're gonna get a lot more Kenpachis, I figured it was worth it to do a top 10 right now, before we get Kenpachi crazy. I will be doing one after we get all the other Kenpachis as well, but that will be a while from now, and by then, we won't just have those new ones, but also the resurrected versions of some of the ones on this list. Now this list is for fun, it is my opinion and opinions will vary, yada yada yada, all that fun stuff, let's begin.
どいつもこいつもトロトロしやがって行くぜ
Now at number 10 we have the blue Kenpachi Zaraki, a character that was number 1 for so long in so many lists he actually got the nickname Broken, and for pretty good reason too. Now while he may not hold up the top spot as he did before, he's still an okay character. Upon resurrection, his stats got a little better, and he got a bunch of useful abilities too. He already had Flurry and Poise, but now you can add a plus 20 Bruiser, which increases his normal attack damage and then doubles it because of the Flurry. This Kenpachi also has a damage reduction soul trait of 16% that can be stacked up to 76%, and when he got resurrected, he also got a last ditch survival link of 80%, which is really useful when autoing, which he can totally do on his own, since he doesn't take as much damage as other characters and does inflict a decent amount of damage thanks to the Flurry. He's also got a strong attack too that's a boost move, though he doesn't have Enhancer, so it only lasts 10 seconds. Now while it is totally reasonable to auto with this guy, he may be a little slow, as he only has an Espada killer, and that really holds him back when it comes to PvE. However, he's still more than usable in certain Senkaimon floors, and is a decent option for guild quests if you don't have very many good Espada killers.
戦いに戻りましょう。敗北は許されません。
Now I really hope you didn't think that Kenpachi Zaraki was the only Kenpachi I was gonna put on this list, because up next we have the power past version of Retsu, or realistically just the power version of Retsu, since there's nothing about her that really signifies past, other than the fact that she came out in a van. Anyway, this version of Retsu has a really high attack. She also has a plus 80 bruiser and a normal attack damage link of 20%, meaning that by herself she increases her own normal attack damage by 100%. Now this isn't the same as Flurry, but it is still really impressive. In addition to that, she's also got a barrier move strong attack 2, and her strong attacks 3 and her special can inflict laceration. In addition to inflicting laceration, her special also heals her and the entire party for 60% of their total health. Now this Retsu is completely immune to being burned, and her strong attack 1 is pretty good for pushing enemies back. All of this, and the fact that she's ranged, make her a pretty reliable character to auto with, though if I'm being honest, a bit slow. I know it'll be a while till she gets resurrected, but I hope that when she does, she gets Flurry, as right now she is decent, but she's kind of a forgettable character.
その力の名前はね、挽回だよ。うわ！
Next on the list, we have the manga version of Kenpachi Zaraki. Now I was really excited when this Kenny came out, and who wouldn't be? He's a Kenpachi with Bankai. This Kenpachi has a high SP as well as Frenzy, and a strong attack damage link, meaning his strong attacks hit hard. They also have decent range, with his strong attack 3 being full screens and the other 2 strong attacks being lunge moves. This Kenny is also one of very few high SP characters that has Poise, meaning his strong attacks cannot be interrupted unless he's frozen or stunned. Now as I mentioned, this is Bankai Kenpachi, and his special, in addition to dealing damage, also completely restores his strong attacks and makes him deal more damage with every attack. This only lasts for 30 seconds, but when that runs out, his strong attacks come back again. This can be very useful in a variety of situations, from PvE to Senkaimon. Now while he does have a decent killer of a Rankar, he unfortunately did not get Sprinter, and it's probably the biggest complaint people have about this character. Now yeah, you can add it now, but it costs a lot of resources and it takes up a spot that another ability can have. Still, he's a decent character, and I'm very excited to see what they do with him when they resurrect him.
我々も全力を尽くすほかありません。波動の88、飛竜激毒新戦来砲。
Now next up we have the Heart version of Retsu, or more commonly known as the Human Killer version of Retsu. Now she was very hard to place, thanks to her killer, but more on that in a bit. She does have a really high SP, and her strong attacks have excellent range. In addition to that, she's also got Frenzy and Berserker at 40%, so her strong attacks deal a lot of damage. She's also got Guard Break, so you don't have to worry about that, and thanks to that Guard Break, her normal attacks are actually decent, since she has a plus 40 Bruiser and piercing range normal attacks. On top of all this, she's also got a 14% strong attack recharge link, so she's able to spam her strong attacks a little bit faster than most characters. Now as I mentioned, the one thing holding her back is her human killer, which is really only useful in Senkaimon, and only in very few floors. These days, killers are multiplied in multiple areas, and while it is a 20% killer, there are no human fodder enemies, so it'll rarely come into play. Still, the character is very impressive, and even with a poor killer with high enough stats, you can actually deal decent amount of damage with her. Maybe eventually we'll get human fodder enemies, and I hope we do, but I do think it's unlikely.
プレゼントを届けに来ましたよ。どうぞ受け取ってください。メリークリスマス。
クリスマスや。
Next up is one of my favorite Retsus in the game, the Christmas version of Retsu. She not only has a really high SP, but also Frenzy and a strong tech recharge link. On top of that, all of her attacks have a chance to inflict burn, and she is pretty likely to inflict them. Not just because of that strong attack recharge link, letting her spam the attacks, but also because her strong attack 2 is a hybrid vortex move, and it hits more than the average amount of times for a strong attack 2. This Retsu also has a Soul Reaper killer, which is still the best killer you can have, and her special, in addition to being full screen and inflicting burn, also leaves behind any enemy that may survive it with a weakened attack. Honestly, she's just a very solid character. Her strong attacks range are a little bit dated, but that's not to say they're bad. They have pretty good range, and her strong attack 3 is full screen.
後のことなんざ考えて出し惜しみしたらぶち殺すぞ。
Okay, look, I know a lot of people dislike this character, and I absolutely get it. He's a normal attacking character whose normal attack doesn't have the best range. Still, while he did disappoint in that regard, he's not a terrible character. He has a really high attack as well as a plus 40 bruiser, flurry, and poise. On top of that, he's got an Arankar killer, so anytime that killer is multiplied, he's definitely going to benefit from it. Now this Kenpachi is actually pretty difficult to stop. Ordinarily, if a character has poise, it means the only way to stop him is either to paralyze him or to freeze him, but in his case, he's completely immune to being paralyzed, which definitely helps out when autoing. And he is a pretty good autoer. Like I said, he deals a lot of damage with his normal attack, but thanks to his damage reduction soul trait, he can also resist a lot of damage too. And while he doesn't have a high SP, his strong attacks are not without uses. He does have a plus 50 berserker after all, and his strong attack 2 is a static vortex move, which can definitely come in handy when autoing, but also in Senkaimon, to trap a boss, or just a group of enemies who are really annoying to take out. Now yeah, it is really annoying that while he does have one of the biggest Shikai in the entire Bleach universe, he has very poor range on his normal attack, but don't let that be the reason you completely disregard this character, because when he hits hard.
ヤシル、そこにいろ。これを待ってたぜ。このゾクゾクする感覚をよ。
Next up is the Belief version of Kenny, or as I like to call him, Tag Team Kenny, since it just kind of makes sense. Now at this point, most of us probably have this character. He's been a filler more than enough times, and he's a premium character, so you've probably got him from a ticket. Lucky for you, he's really good. He's got a really high attack as well as flurry and poise. Plus, all of his attacks have a chance to inflict debilitating weakening, and he's very, very likely to do it with his strong attack too, since it's a vortex move that surrounds him. All of these attacks are inevitable since he has poise and he can't be stopped, and if an enemy is weakened, their defense gets lowered, so his attacks are gonna do more damage. And wouldn't you know it, this Kenny actually has long reach, so his normal attacks are gonna reach the distance the other one should have. Now in addition to being able to deal a lot of damage, he can also resist it thanks to his damage reduction soul trait that can also be stacked up to 76%. Unlike most of the characters on this list, though, this character is primarily a PvP character. That's thanks to his Captain Killer. That's not to say you can't use him everywhere else, the killer just won't be multiplied. Still, he's gonna deal a lot of damage because of that weakening flurry combination, and despite being relatively old at this point, he still holds up as a character. Plus, I'm sure a lot of us have him at 5 out of 5 at this point, but I'm not really counting that towards this.
挽回水無月雑境はこれにておしまい。
Hey, remember Murder Mom? She's in this. Probably the character to hold the #1 spot the most amount of times on my list. This version of Unohana still holds up, and for very good reason. She's just great. She's got a really high attack as well as flurry and poise. On top of that, she's also got long reach and her normal attacks are pretty fast. But that's not really what made her broken. I mean, it is part of it, but what really made her stand out was the fact that she's really difficult to take out. Not only does she have a damage reduction soul trait that can be stacked up to 76%, but her strong attack 2 is a heal move. So very basically, if you hurt her, it's not a lot, and if it gets to be a lot, she'll just heal it. This also affects the rest of the party, so you can see why she became the most broken character in PvP for a while. She was also very usable in PvE for this reason, and she's still one of the best autoers in the game. Though I'll have to say, she might be a little bit slower now, because like I said, everything multiplies killers, and she has a captain killer. Now finally we have her special, and while it doesn't do that much damage thanks to her low SP, it is still a very useful special, since it heals the entire party for 60% of their total health, and has a 5% chance of instant killing the enemies. Now we've had many really good characters before and after her, but I like to think that she was the very first broken character.
今日は特別ですよ。ご覧なさい。降り注ぐ世界よ。
Next up we have another Retsu, and this one is personally my favorite. It's the Machine Society version of Retsu, and not only is her design amazing, but she's also a really good character. She's got a really high SP as well as Frenzy and Berserker at 20%. She's also got a strong attack recharge link of 12%, and can inflict either debilitating paralysis or freeze with all of her attacks. And they are really good attacks. Not only do they deal a lot of damage, but they have great range thanks to her Havoc being at 20. Her strong attack 3 is beyond full screen, her strong attack 2 is near full screen, and her strong attack 1 has a 180 mag. It splits off in 3 directions, and individually they don't do that much damage, but at close range they can deal a decent amount of damage and they hit multiple times, vastly increasing the chance of inflicting freeze. This Retsu also has guard break, so all of these attacks will deal their full amount of damage, and she's got a Soul Reaper killer, which is still the best. Honestly, she's a phenomenal character, and one you should definitely max out if you have.
お前になら全力で戦っても良さそうだ。バカだ。
Now finally at number 1 we have the fierce battle version of Kenpachi Zaraki. I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming, and for good reason. He is a very good character. He has a really high SP as well as Frenzy and Berserker at 40%. He's also got a strong attack damage link of 25%, and it makes his strong attacks effectively some of the strongest in the entire game. This Kenpachi also has poise, meaning his attacks cannot be stopped, and despite not having Havoc, he does have really good range on his attacks. Now this Kenpachi has the ability to hit hidden enemies, something you would need an accessory for otherwise, and this means that all of his attacks will hit his enemies. This makes him a much faster character, especially since he's got a Soul Reaper killer, and a lot of those guys like to hide underground. Now as I said, this Kenny hits really hard, but it only gets better, because his special transforms him and increases the amount of damage he inflicts with his strong attacks by 30% and his normal attacks by 20%. It also completely recharges his strong attacks, and when the 30 seconds are up, it recharges them again. Use this correctly, you can essentially use 6 strong attacks in a row against an enemy, and they will all hit incredibly hard. Plus, he's got a plus 40 bruiser, so even his normal attacks will deal a decent amount of damage in either state. And his special, in addition to transforming him, also deals more damage than a regular special thanks to his plus 60 devastation. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that he hits so hard, I'd probably put Machine Society Retsu in front of him. But the sheer amount of damage he deals and the fact that he can deal it to enemies that are hidden is why I ended up putting him at number 1. Now like I said, I will be doing this list again, and when I do, there's a good chance some of these characters that haven't been resurrected will be. Plus, we'll have a lot of other Kenpachis to play with as well, so look forward to that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for some more top 10 lists.